Thanks for taking time to listen to this episode of the Real ResQ podcast. Take a minute to go to therealresq.com to check out these and other great deals from our sponsors here at the Real ResQ. This episode of the Real ResQ podcast is brought to you by Breeze Eastern, the world's only dedicated helicopter hoist and winch provider. Axness, because when lives are at stake and conditions are challenging, clear communication is of the utmost importance. Life Saving Systems Corporation. We do our work so you can do yours. Tough gear for tough jobs. And SR3 Rescue Concepts, because you don't know what you don't know. Breeze Eastern. They dedicate themselves to our helicopter rescue world. Since the very first helicopter rescue in November of 1945, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured superior rescue hoist solutions. While much of the technology and the unique mission requirements have changed over the past 75 years, their commitment to the rescuers, the operators, and those being rescued has not. Contact them today by visiting them at breeze-eastern.com. The Axness PNG wireless ICS system can bring cutting-edge wireless intercommunication system technology to any aircraft. The PNG system can be fully integrated into an existing ICS system or can be carried on and off as a mobile base station. They can go anywhere at any time on any aircraft. Plus, with the strongest and most robust waterproof handheld on the market, this system can take a hit and keep working. Their wireless intercom systems are designed to enhance situational awareness through improved communication capability. This system brings superior noise canceling technology to eliminate rotor wash and engine noise from your ICS. The Axness PNG wireless system is currently deployed in more than 1,800 public safety, air ambulance, and search and rescue aircrafts worldwide. I have personally used the Axness system in 4 different countries and on 5 different airframes. It is awesome. If you want more information, contact them today at axness.com. That's AXNES.com. You just make sure you tell them Quinny sent me. Life Saving Systems Corporation. They manufacture the world's toughest helicopter rescue gear. From my favorite harness as a rescueman, the Triton harness, to the rescue baskets, the litters, and of course, the most popular hook in all helicopters, the D-Lock. The team at LSC will cut, bend, sew, weld, and machine these products into existence every day. We do our work so you can do yours. LSC. Tough gear for tough jobs. Check them out today at lifesavingsystems.com and follow them on Instagram at Rescue Gear. That's at ResQGEAR. And SR3 Rescue Concepts is a training company that can help with your helicopter training, a standardization and safety check, or maybe just an audit or an FAA refresher. They are here to bring your agency up to date with the most current techniques, rules, regulations, and equipment. The training staff is awesome. With the certified flight instructor pilots, experienced crew members, which I am happy to say that I am one of them, they offer training in rescue, medical, tactical, firefighting, ground operations, and night vision goggle use. SR3 is also partnered with Petzl to assist with personal protective equipment and the highly specific Lazard. SR3 also goes beyond the helicopter world as they provide high-angle rescue training and tactical medicine training. Contact them today at sr3rescueconcepts.com or over on Instagram at sr3_rescue. Our next guest had an amazing career in the U.S. Coast Guard. As another rescue swimmer, his stories are like, oh my gosh, I absolutely loved them. He talks about just a couple that stand out to him, and in addition to that, we get into one in particular training flight that he was on that really is like, whoa. So I hope you guys enjoy these stories as much as I did. Please welcome our next guest, United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 251, Mr. Marty Nelson. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast. I've got another rescue swimmer brother with me, and I am pumped to have this guy here, and I'll explain why in a second. United States Coast Guard, a rescue swimmer, number 251, Mr. Marty Nelson. What's up, Marty? How are you, brother?
Doing great, brother. Living the life down here in Corpus Christi.
Yeah, buddy. So one of the reasons I love the fact that I'm seeing you right now is I very vividly remember your face in the first day I met you, and that's because you were stationed down in ECD, not at the shop. You were over at Aussie Tech. Is that right?
Yep.
And so during A school, when we had our multis, we had survivors in the water, and it wasn't just our instructors. We had guys from Aussie Tech, and that's where I met Marty Nelson for the first time. I'm in the multi, I'm in the pool, and he's like off in the corner, like, I'm so cold, help me. I'm like, shut up, get over here. You're like, oh. And my debrief after that was, you should probably really take the guy that's probably the most severely hypothermic and injured out of the water first. I was like, oh, that's probably a good idea. My first introduction to Marty Nelson.
I gave you the answer.
You did, yeah, very much so. Very much so. I can't. I don't know if I took it that. I don't remember. All I remember is I picked you out of the pool last. So I don't know if the advice was after or before that multi, but oh shoot. Anyway. But all right, so for everybody else that doesn't know you out there, if you could do me a favor, just introduce yourself, a little bit of background about you, how you came in the Coast Guard, and how you became a rescue swimmer.
Oh, man. It started back on the home front. We moved to Oklahoma from California around 1977, and this little town that I grew up in had so much Coast Guard people in it, you wouldn't believe it. It was right on the edge of the Mike Monroney Aerospace Center where the Coast Guard Institute is.
Oh,
dude, every neighborhood had a retired Coast Guard Master Chief in it.
It was inevitable.
I'm pretty sure Larry Farmer lived in my neighborhood at one point.
Hey,
where I grew up, like the Godfather that started the program. Yeah, he's living around the corner. But yeah, there's a lot of Coast Guard. I grew up hearing about it. It was a great place to live, but man, I missed that beach from California and just couldn't wait to get back. And so I jumped at the chance to enlist. I started working on aircraft when I was 15. It was part of a program in high school. So when I graduated high school, I already had 2 years of airframe experience.
Oh, wow. That's killer. Like in high school, they had a program for that?
Yep.
Come on.
It was a long drive. We had our high school, and then we had our vocational school that was probably, 10, 15 miles away. And it was a long drive going, okay, go to school for track practice. Okay, go back, work on the aircraft. Okay, go back to school for high school.
Wow.
It was a lot of driving, but I did that my senior year.
That's pretty awesome. Actually, that's the first time I've ever heard of any school doing that. That's pretty cool.
Yep. Let's see. I graduated Mustang High School, 87. But
Go Mustangs. I'm a Spartan. Sorry.
Yeah. Canadian Valley Votech. Instructor by the name of Edsel Ford. Awesome guy. Got me going in aviation. And he's still there. He's probably just retired. But yeah, 2 years. We learned non-destructive testing, structural. I didn't do any engines, but we did all the general and all the airframe requirements to get licensed. Wow. So that might be the only secret I ever kept in the Coast Guard.
Probably smart as a swimmer. Just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, so I actually came in to be an AD. I wanted to be a mechanic, and I decided, okay, if I like the Coast Guard, I'm going to go AD, or I'm going to do something I wouldn't normally get to do, which is rescue swimming. Go be an ASM at the time.
Yep.
If I'm going to do 4 years and get out, I'll go AD. So after about 6 months, I got a feel for it. I liked it. So I just went for the brass ring and went ASM.
Nice. Very nice. And the rest is kind of history because you didn't get
The rest
out.
is history.
You stayed in for a very long and great career.
I stayed in the field as long as I could. I dodged senior chief. I love the job. Absolutely love the job.
Right. So, you know, you're not the only person that ever say that I've heard that, like, I'm going to dodge senior chief. For those that don't know out there, when you make senior chief, which is the E8 position, is that right? E8?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. E8. Wow. I had to double check myself there. So when you make E8, there are very limited spots you can go in the rescue swimmer rate. There's only what, maybe 6 units off the top of my head. There are not many. So it's like,
yeah, wasn't that cool? I wasn't going to get one of those.
Yeah. There's a chief in every unit. Your E7, but your E8s, those are limited. And that's So dodging, yeah, you smart guy. Come on, man.
I'd tell people I'd rather be a senior chief than a senior chief.
Oh, that's funny. I like that. Nice. All right, man. So you get qualified. You're starting to stand duty, and so you at number 251.
Mm-hmm.
You were part of the same program with Olaf and everybody. So you had to do both flight mech, drop guy, depending on the units. Is that accurate?
I think I came right after that.
Okay.
I got to Cape Cod in 1990, and we transitioned from H3 to the H60 in 91.
Okay.
So we had to do the flight mech syllabus, but I didn't do any of the hoisting. You know, I got in at a very interesting time. First of all, everyone that taught me was a stinking legend. I mean, I got Hathaway, Genta, Dave Moore from Perfect Storm. Tom Carr was just an absolute great first chief to have. He taught me just as much about being a family guy and doing the job as doing the job.
Wow. Cool.
Just, man, so many people. Hathaway, Hines, and Hanley are the 3 H's that taught me how to fight in the water. So if you can take on those guys, you're doing really well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's hilarious.
But the program was just really starting to kind of congeal at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys that were before me, they were writing it while they were doing it. And so we came out of school and we thought, oh, this is the way it's always been, right? No. We didn't realize that the foundation we were standing on was barely dry. Those guys were just finished getting that foundation laid. And we show up, just a few years later thinking, wow, this is, it's always been like this, right? It's like, no, the program was only 5 years old at that point.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy to think about.
But
nice. All right.
But in the words of Brooks McKinley, it's like, but we were the generation that made it work. So there.
Come on, Brooksy. I like that. Well, I just polished it up for you. I'm just going to throw that out there for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whatever. Anyway. All right. So now you get all qualified. You're done. Very first SAR case. What do you got?
Very first SAR case. Let's see. 27-year-old heart attack victim on what kind of boat was it? It was a fishing boat of some kind, like a commercial fishing boat. And we get down there, and of course your mind's going 100 miles an hour because you're like, okay, I'm really doing it. I thought I was really doing it when I graduated school, but now I'm really doing it. H3 has so much fuel, so you've got an extra 2 hours to think about, I'm really doing it, And we get out there, they lower you down with your equipment. You've already gone through your procedures, you know what to do. And all of a sudden there's something amiss. There's something not right about this case. And there's the guy laying on the deck, unconscious, not breathing. And you're like, okay, this guy's got no vitals. And you start CPR on him. And when you go to do your jaw thrust, you feel the strangest little crinkle under your fingertips, and you're like, his face is frozen.
Oh,
And you're like, wait, what? This guy had a heart attack and fell face first into the ice while he was packing the fish down in the hold. And I don't think they found him for a while. So they pulled him up on deck to kind of thaw him out and say, we don't know what happened. It's like, well, 27-year-old heart attack, might have a pretty good idea what happened. But yeah, so.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it was really like, okay, they didn't teach us this in school. And so the crew's looking kind of not guilty, but like, I don't know how this is going to go. But you treat them and you medevac them just like everyone else. But that was my first medevac.
Wow, what a first case to have.
Yeah. But like I said, Cape Cod was all medevacs. I got a lot of, for some reason, if you were within 200 miles of Cape Cod having a heart attack, I was going to be on duty. So I was a cardiac king. So, but that was it. I never got deployed once in Cape Cod to the water.
Really?
No, that was my first tour.
All right. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Like, not all of us have gone to the water in every case. So I've been to more boats than I've been in the water. So, Yeah,
but that'll change when I got to Corpus Christi. Everybody wants to go to Cape Cod because of big water, big water rescue, cold water rescue.
Yep.
But I come down here south of I-10, all of a sudden I'm a swimming fool.
Oh, okay. Well, as a matter of fact, actually, you and I have kind of offline, we talked a little bit about all your cases, and you had a boatload. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to kind of go through the list and because I want to hear all these. They're every one of it is intriguing to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So the first one that you've got on here is a torn carotid artery.
Yeah. So these guys go out in the bay and they go fishing. They have a good time, and they're slaying the fish. They're having a great time, and they do not want to go back in to get bait because it's wasted time and it's wasted fuel. So they'll pull up to your local shrimper and say, hey, can we buy some bait? Well, some of the guys will throw down the shrimp and the boat will take off without paying them. So the shrimpers will say, listen, if you want to do business, come up here on the deck of the boat and we'll sell you some shrimp. So this fellow decides that in probably about maybe 3 foot, rollers, he's going to jump from his small fishing boat to the side of a shrimp boat. And when he does, he throws both arms around this tire. And the problem is there's a steel cord sticking out of that tire that inserts right at the base of his neck, right at his jawline. Oh. And as he falls into the water, it cuts him to the tip of his chin. So he's got a gill that runs the entire length of his jaw. Oh. And they get him out of the water. They get him onto the back of the boat. And when I find him, he's sitting on an ice chest on the back of the boat, the fishing boat. And there's just blood in a V, starting with the tip of his chin running to both corners of the boat. And he is not controlling this bleeding at all. So we get him packaged up. We get a pressure dressing on it. We get him up in the helicopter. And he's starting to panic a little bit. It's noisy, the vibrations. He's looking around. And every time he looks around, he jerks his head. And it's like a sprinkler spraying out of his neck into the bulkhead. And so he just, and then he sees it and he freaks out and he starts looking around again and he's just losing blood. And I'm trying to hold him down and keep this guy alive till finally I notice the blood is actually pooling over his eyes. And so I'm trying to clean him up so he can see to keep him calm, and it's not working. So I just went with it. I got a couple of 2x2s, put it over his eyes and let the blood dry. And when it dried, it sealed his eyes shut. He quit looking around and we could handle the patient. Wow. So you figure stuff out on the fly. But we got him into, we got him into the hospital and lived happily ever after. But it's like, you do what you have to do. There's really not a lot of rules other than don't let anyone die.
Holy shit. You know, the downside about that whole case is, you got to clean the helicopter when you're done.
Oh yeah.
And it's
Oh, yeah.
sprayed with blood everywhere. And you're like, what the heck?
You know what, dude? You did the job too, and blood is the cleanest thing we clean out of there. So let's stop right there.
It doesn't smell as bad as everything else either. For what? Like. All right. Next on the list, ready? Amputated finger and a belly full of a screwdriver.
Oh, you know what? This is a good setup. We went from blood, and we're working our way down the list of the grossest things we do.
All right.
we had another recreational fisherman managed to cut a finger off while he was on his boat. These guys are chopping up bait on these nice boats. And he cut his finger off. So we fly out, we pick him up, and like most guys, he had a couple of drinks, while he was out there fishing. And this guy's drink of choice was screwdrivers.
Nice.
So we get the call, and the first thing I do, they're like, "Hey, it's an amputation. You know the deal. You grab a trash bag, run to the ice machine, get as much ice as you can carry. 80% of it's going to melt before you get there. So if you have a Ziploc left at the end of it, you're pretty happy, because that's all you really need." So I grab this bag of ice and throw it in the cabin. Well, it snags on the seat track, and so it tears the bag. And we're like, well, that's no big deal. The water will drain and go out the door. So we get out there, we pick the guy up, pack the finger, pack the patient, and he's starting to get really woozy. He's not feeling really good. And we are on approach to Shoreline Hospital here in Corpus, and he lets go of about a gallon of screwdriver right in the cabin floor.
Oh.
And it mixes with all that ice water.
Oh.
And and I see it coming. I don't see it coming very often, but I saw it coming. So I put my visors down, and the minute they opened the door, that entire cabin just oranged out. The rotor wash caught all of it and just painted the inside of the cabin.
I know we have to open the cabin door, or not. So the 65 or the Coast Guard, they open cabin door to clear all the area all the way in. I know that's a rule. But when there's vomit on the inside of the aircraft, you just gotta blow around. Don't open the door. Don't
Can you shut down, please? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Marty, that's terrible.
It's you know what though? It's this is for all the guys that think they're going to go into this and it's going to be some kind of glory job. The job is doing whatever it takes to keep people alive. That's it. That's it.
Comes with the motto.
Nothing else matters.
So others may live. Comes with the motto.
There you go. There you go. But if you're not prepared to do whatever it takes, then man, this is not the job for you.
Fact. Totally. So. All right, let's go. Let's keep it rolling. Ready? Shark encounters with Hoff and shark encounter with
oh my God.
With a derelict vessel. All right.
Oh man. We decided to do some training. Okay. We had a couple shark encounters down here off Corpus. When we're doing our training, we usually go out to the Sioux Buoy off Port Aransas. And when the fishing boats are coming in, they'll hose off their decks and they'll get all that chum and all the weed and everything. So there's always some weed lines out there. And they make great reference points for training. If you want to hold a hover, hey man, just put that weed line out at 1 o'clock and the pilot's got a hover reference. And beautiful clear days down here. It's a great training environment. So we're going to do I think it was direct deployment training, if I remember correctly. And I'm the survivor, Hoff's the rescuer. So I go out first and I'm just basking in it, looking around, going, man, the water's clear. Look how beautiful this is. We get paid to do this. And I'm like, wow, just beautiful sky, beautiful water. Wow, look at the fishies. That looks just like a shark. and it passes and it's got that little slink, that little sway that they do as they swim. And then the next time it comes by, it's just a little higher. So it's a little bigger. And the third time I'm looking up the door like, okay, I could give the emergency signal right now but Hoff's doing a direct deployment. If I give an emergency signal, they're going to back off. They're going to wonder if it's real or training. I really want Hoff right now. So I'm just going to write it out and let Hoff come get me. So Hoff comes down, throws a strap around me, and he sees that my eyes are big in my mask. Like, let's go. We got to go. Yeah. Hoff picks me up, and I'm trying to scream to him, "There's a big shark down here." And he's like, "What? What?" I said, and I'm motioning with my hands, big, middle finger, shark. Arms together, shark. And now the flight med's like, what are you two idiots doing? You look like you're flopping around on the hoist. And we tell them, hey, look, there's a big shark down here. We probably want to fly a little ways away from here. And pilot's like, well, let's just go up the weed line. I'm like, well, that's the direction he was going. This probably isn't the best direction for us to go. And Hoff's like, Marty, it's not a big deal. How big was the shark? And I'm like, does it matter? It has a mouth. There's not a single part of my body that is disposable. I really don't care. I mean, 3 or 4 feet, but that's big enough for me.
Come on,
and
Hoff.
He's like, oh, Hoff. And he's like, and he, the way you get a swimmer to do something is you call him a pansy.
Among other things.
Fine. And so Hoff decides, okay, look, I'll be the victim, you be the rescuer. And I'm sitting there and they're putting Hoff down. And I'm thinking, you know what? If it was 3 or 4 feet at a 20-foot depth, that probably means that was a big shark. So we're looking about the time I'm trying to tap the flight mech, like, hey, we probably better pick him up. Hoff looks down and gives us a little, hi, how you doing? And then he goes from, okay, I'm a little more excited, look, couple more waves. And then he looks like he can auto rotate on one arm, like, come get me. And we go back and we pick him up, and it's like, yeah, that was a very big 10-foot plus shark.
Oh,
yeah.
That's hilarious. Did you change your training location or call it for the day?
I think we went somewhere else and we finished up, but it was like, yeah, no more on the chum lines.
You're clear of that. Probably a good idea. Oh my gosh. All right. Next on the list, as you sent me, full thickness burn patient, mess cook from an oil rig.
Oh, that was horrible. That was horrible. We went out to we've got 1,500 rigs off the coast of Corpus Christi.
A lot of
1,500. We'll take the new pilots out and we'll make them close their eyes. We'll do a couple of figure eights to get them lost. And then we'll tell them, okay, without looking at instruments, which way's land? And they will always fly towards the light. And there's way more light with the rigs offshore than there are onshore.
Oh, wow.
And so we tell them, flying towards the light only gets you in more trouble. You've got to use something other than that is not a cultural lighting, as we used to call it.
Yeah.
You're just going to run out of fuel and crash into the abyss if you go out that way. So there's a lot of rigs out here. And I mean, they're fully functioning little cities. So these guys were out there and they've got a full kitchen crew. And they tease people just like we tease people. They got a kid that's working in the kitchen. And this kid could not wait to get off the rig because he was going to go get engaged. And they're like, hey, man, I don't care if you're getting engaged or not. If that helicopter comes and my lunch isn't ready, you're not going anywhere.
Oh,
so
dang.
The kid's really rushing. He's rushing in the kitchen and he is boiling whole chickens in a giant pot. And probably the top 2 inches of that pot was grease. And so he's boiling this stuff. He's running around a really hot kitchen, South Texas. He's got some fishing boots on, some cut off camouflage pants, and an apron. That's it. So he's moving this giant pot of boiling water and he loses his grip. And instead of letting it go, he follows it down to try and catch it before it hits the floor. And all that oil hits him right in the chest, runs down his whole body and into his boots. And when we get on the rig, it was kind of funny. The first guy that runs up to me was a non-rate I was stationed with in Cape Cod.
Oh,
He
no
got
kidding.
out. Yeah, he got out, went to work for the oil companies in Louisiana, and winds up on the same rig. And I'm like, look, come with me. I know you know how to do this. Come help me put this guy in a litter. And so we go down, and as we get away from the rotor noise going down these stairs, you can hear this screaming. I mean, just horrible screaming. And we fight through, a bunch of guys kind of peeking through the door, and we get in there, and we see there's two old guys reading a manual. And they're looking over their reading glasses, like it says cool the burn, cool, calm, and cover, right? That's a procedure. Cool calm the patient, cool the burn, cover it up, right?
Yeah.
They put this kid in a shower to cool the burn, and they're putting this cold water on raw nerve endings. And I'm like, hey, we got to get him out of there. What are y'all doing? So we pull this kid out, and he starts almost crashing immediately.
Oh, no.
So we are treating him from the nipples down for full thickness burns. The top of his feet are pretty much gone. The inside of his legs, all that fat tissue has ballooned up the size of about a softball.
Holy smoke.
I mean, just massive blistering, or the meat just came off the bone. So we're transporting him for full thickness burns from pretty much nipples to belly button down. But I'm also treating him from hypothermia from the nipples up.
Because of the cold shower.
So much heat. Yeah, he's losing so much heat. But it was the case before this one happened. I dehydrated, and I was like, you know what? I'm not doing that again. So I just put a ridiculous amount of water in my bag, and we used every drop of it to pour it over him, because he would sit there and he would be stable. And all of a sudden you would see his fingers contract and his legs draw up and his lips would purse. And then his heart would go into arrhythmia. And then you pour water on him and he would totally relax, and the heart would calm down.
Wow.
And we did that probably every 5 minutes all the way to the hospital. But that was, these are some very remote places. You talk about the golden hour, losing 80% of your patients in the first hour, and it takes you 2 hours to get there, and it happened 40 minutes before you left.
Yeah.
It's it's some tough medicine down here.
Wow. That brings up kind of a discussion point as far as medical training that we get as Coast Guard rescue swimmers. And all of us are EMT basics. We're not paramedics. We don't carry a bunch of pain drugs and stuff. And, I went through medic school after I got out, and I look at it now like, would have been great to have some of that knowledge and medical gear, drugs specifically, to be able to treat and help the patients. That patient right there would have needed an IV and start dumping fluid into it. Ketamine would have been a great drug to use. But, at the same time, like, how many cases do you get that you can stay proficient with your medical skills? I mean, I remember going like a month or two without having anything. And it's like,
right.
If you're not touching patients for 2 months, like, how do you stay proficient on a paramedic aspect, So that's why they say this, kept this a basic. But something like that, man, we got to raise that question flag one more time. Like, are you sure?
I don't think having having a couple of guys intermediate trained.
Yeah.
I don't think a few people in the shop intermediate trained is that much more expensive. I know we're talking at a program level. We've all, we're very program sensitive.
Yep.
We know the money only goes so far, but when we're talking about getting the mission done, we don't need to hear about money.
Right. Well, something else that might, again, discussion points, ideas, and for guys that listen to this, the military all over uses like the fentanyl pops, for guys that get hit in the field and stuff. And I know it's a medic that's usually doing it, but, like all my buddies that were deployed, they all had them like in their pockets. So if they get shot, eat the pop. And then when you start drooling, the pop falls out. Well, you're good and you're good to go for the rest of the flight home. An option. I mean, as long as the medical director gives us enough training and signs off on it. Again, I'm all about an option. How nice would it have been for that dude?
Oh, no kidding.
You know?
No kidding.
But anyway, so all right, ready? Let's keep this going. Ready?
Let's
Okay.
go.
Next one. You've got on here. All right. Truck accident of migrants that went off a highway, through a fence, and off a cliff into a sand pit. What?
Yes. Okay, so there's a lot of South Texas knowledge there. Okay, we have caliche pits. Caliche is just fancy word for clay. Okay, Spanish word
Is that
for clay.
like hard pack clay, like the hard pack clay?
It's more like the. It looks almost like gravel, but when you drive by it, and it creates the massive white cloud because that clay is just turning into dust as you drive over it.
Gotcha.
But it's used on all the ranches, all the oil field roads. It's just there's a lot of it down here. And so when they find a patch of it, they mine it out. And it's not uncommon to have these 20, 30, 40-foot pits all over South Texas where they mine this stuff out. So that's oil field. We live on the border. We live 2 hours from the border. There's a lot of our stuff that takes us into Mexico, Mexican waters, or dealing with Mexican citizens. And really most of them are not even Mexican citizens. They're citizens that are passing through Mexico, to come here. So what you do if you want to get into the country is you all pile into a truck and they're briefed. Okay, this half is going to run left. This half is going to run right if the truck stops. They crash it into a fence. And hopefully whoever's chasing them can't get through the fence without going over the truck, and everyone's on foot is left and right. So there's always going to be half of them get away.
Got it.
Well, that works unless you crash through a fence and do a Thelma and Louise into a caliche pit. Okay. So these guys.
That's terrible. I'm sorry. I did not mean to laugh at that.
I know that's
not funny.
Yeah.
But
they go through a fence and they crash over into this caliche pit. The truck totally flips over. I know there was more than 8 people in the truck.
Oh gosh.
And so they call us up, and it's a mass casualty drill. And Halo Flight comes out, Coast Guard comes out, and I'll give you an idea how big this caliche pit is. The wreck is way off to one side, and there's 3 helicopters parked almost like taxi lineup on the other side of the pit. I mean, that's how big this thing is. And there's ambulances driving in here. And the kid that I got was 14 years old. And we medevaced him to, I want to say, Driscoll's Children's Hospital. They took him in.
Wow.
But he broke his back. He was in the back of the truck, rode it all the way down. And it's horrible. But we handle a lot of stuff inland. We take care of mass casualty drills, flooding. I mean, Hoffmaster's rescues were in Victoria. And I don't know if you've seen on a map where Victoria it is, but it's a good hour from the coast.
Wow.
So
that's a far way inland.
Right. So Colorado River, the Mexican border, about 200 miles out and 200 miles in from the shore is the AOR for Sector Corpus Christi.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but you never know what you're going to be flying on. We've got a lot of training bases here. It might be military. Dave Gray's got, I think, at least 2 pilot disentanglements.
Yep. He came on here and talked about them.
Yeah. So you do not know. Oil rigs, mining operations, law enforcement. Yeah, we'll touch on law enforcement, but you just do not know what you're going to get into down here.
Dang. That is crazy. All right. So now, next one you got on the list is this is a little story about your family. And basically, your wife tells you that, listen, we have a Christmas show. The kids have a Christmas show. You better be here for it. All right. Just saying. So you decide to put yourself on duty the night before the Christmas show. just so you can make sure you're there. Smart man.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah. It's good to be the boss, right?
Right.
You know, I'll just put myself on duty and, you know, what could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Launch the Ready
so,
H helicopter. Launch the Ready helicopter. Swimmer, get your stuff. Let's go.
Oh, man. So the day of the Christmas pageant isn't until like 7, 8 o'clock at night. So I'm thinking I'm good. I go off duty at 4, right?
Yeah.
Plenty
of time.
We get a call to a disabled vessel on the border. And this guy is really concerned that he's drifting into Mexican waters and the Mexican Navy is going to want to board him. So he's very worried about that. And we get down there and we've got just enough fuel to drop me off and basically say, hey, look, we have a Coast Guard person on board the boat. Don't board him. You know, Coast Guard's got this under control. Helicopter's going to run back, pick up some fuel in Brownsville, come back. We've got surface assets underway. It's going to be a couple hours before they get there, you know, because we're that far out.
Wow.
So we get down there and I'm loaded for bear. I've got my extra life raft. I've got, you know, all my swimmer gear and hit the deck. The helicopter takes off, flies away. And the minute that rotor wash is gone, you get a big whiff of gasoline. And I'm like, that's not good. It's a diesel boat. The only thing that runs on gasoline is their portable generator, and it's still wrapped and duct taped in a tarp. And you can see it from the fantail. And you look on the deck and you see a little bit of gasoline on the deck. And it's like, oh man, it's a drug boat. They scrub the boats with gasoline to get the smell off it.
Oh no.
And so there goes the helicopter. And it's like, oh, this is not good. So the captain comes down and he's cool. He just sounds, you know, like a good old boy. Hey, we're so glad to see you. Y'all are like angels, and we're just worried about drifting into waters. It's like, no, dude, here's the deal. You want to go to a nice cush American jail and not a Mexican jail. And we keep up this facade for hours. I'm stuck on this boat. The crew, we had 2 guys in the engine room that wouldn't even come out and talk to me. I think they were Nicaraguan. But the long story was this boat was seized and then bought for, I think, $1. And it had all kinds of hull damage. And they got the bright idea to pour concrete into the bilge to seal the holes.
Oh my good Lord.
Which works until the concrete cracks, and then you have a hole that you can't access. So we're on a sinking drug boat drifting into Mexican waters. and you know, it sometimes it takes a little bit of time for district to get their head around the problem. And so we're still drifting south while, you know, I'm waiting for the Coast Guard patrol boat out of South Padre to get there. And so it's like sunset. It's like 6 o'clock. And here comes a helicopter. Hey, swimmer, you ready? We got enough fuel to pick you up, or you're going to get left here and you're going to have to ride the boat in. About the same time, I see the cutter. So I wind up setting the tow. The guys on the boat have no idea how to set up any towing equipment whatsoever. So we set up the tow for them. The 110 throws me the line, hook them up. You know, you guys ahead easy. Hey, easy, you know, just rudder midship.
Yeah.
And we're trying to set this tow, and the whole time I'm distracted by, that's my ride. It's coming in for hover right now.
Yeah.
And so I go running back and get back to the fantail and grab my gear just in time to hook up. And we go back to Corpus. I jump in the truck and I'm screaming down Ocean Drive. You know, everyone else is in like a black tie. And I'm in this, again, the salty gasoline stank flight suit. You know, and the wife's like, you know, there's really not a good excuse for this. You knew about this. And I'm like, well, I think I might have a good excuse. She's like, no, there's no excuse. So,
honey, you see what happened was I was on a boat in the middle of the ocean. I couldn't get off.
Yeah. Well, see, this is the part that nobody talks about. It's like we're all family dudes.
Right.
This is, yes, we're in the military, but even the Marine that's going into combat, he's got a family guy too.
Right.
And if we look back about 50, 60 years, the greatest generation were just family dudes that answered the call and did their job.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's
hey, I always wanted to come home to my kids. Yeah. I wanted to come home to my kids. I loved coming home. And I remember cases that would happen, and I would come home and specifically give them a hug and just hold them for a minute and be like, I'm glad I'm holding you guys right now. But, at the same time, it's like, you go on deployment or something like that. You come back, so happy to see them. There are commitments. You got to be there. You got to be there for the recital. Come on, Marty.
Be there. Yeah. But you know what? The funny thing is when you say stuff like, oh, sweetie, I was stuck on a drug boat in Mexican waters. That doesn't even wash because it's happened before.
Right.
They're so used to it. They're like, yeah, I don't care. That's just part of the job.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what?
You knew you were supposed to be here. You should have told that drug boat no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh. Oh my gosh. Honey, I'm sorry. I'm late. I'm sorry. Okay. Marty, it's freaking hilarious.
But you find yourself in patterns and dealing with stuff that people are like, wait a minute, what? If somebody overheard the conversations, they would be like, wait, what? That's not even close to normal.
Right. Oh yeah, I know.
You know what's not allowed in our house? This is funny. Cheeseburger wrappers. McDonald's cheeseburger wrappers are not allowed in my house.
Okay.
We had a McDonald's on base, and every time we had like that one case where, hey, we almost put it in the water, or we almost lost a crew member, or man, I cannot unsee what I've seen. I would celebrate life, brother. I would go get me a couple of cheeseburgers. I would have a nice cigar. And usually my buddy, Rick Olivas, my favorite flight mech, he would come over and he'd have a shot of rum with me on the porch. And we would just, hey man, live to fight another day. But it happens so much whenever my wife sees the yellow cheeseburger wrapper, she's like, it happened again, didn't it? So it's like, yeah, so McDonald's is not allowed in our house anymore. I've been retired like 11 years and we still don't eat McDonald's.
You know what? You shouldn't eat it anyway. Sorry, I don't mean. I know. I might be dissing McDonald's, but
Yeah, I'm just saying that rescue swimmers were eating cheeseburgers to celebrate victory laps long before Iron Man ever did.
Hey, smoking cigars, having a shot. I'm all about it. About it.
Hey.
And I'm the same guy that says, don't eat McDonald's. What is wrong?
Yeah,
there's a major wrong picture there. Come on. You know what? I remember coming back from cases, and this is even civilian side, where it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. The first place we go is either Waffle House or IHOP. You're like, I just need food.
I'm celebrating life, baby.
Come on.
Trust me. I killed this calories and whatever I'm going to put in my body next. Because it was a long night. It was a long night.
Oh my goodness. How was the recital? Do you remember?
It was pretty good.
All right.
It was pretty good. It was no different than going to something in your dress uniform. You just like, okay, don't talk to anyone. Just be calm. Look the part. Be polite.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just get through it.
Marty, that's hilarious. That's awesome. All right, ready? Let's go. Next one you got on the list. Left on scene with a paraplegic.
Man.
And a black cat. That was puking all over the place. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the best cases I was ever on, with the exception of one, were all flown by the same man, Commander Dave Neal. Dave Neal is by far one of the best.
I flew with Dave Neal because he came up to Kodiak.
Did you?
Heck yeah.
So you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome guy. Awesome guy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dave Neal.
So Yeah, the captain really didn't like the way we did risk assessments. You know, we had a simple thing. If the bell went off, he flew. And if he flew, I jumped, and we resolved the case and we went home. It really is a simple life. The 90s were kind of weird for risk assessments.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never seen that risk assessment.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we don't care about your risk assessment.
Yeah.
So we go out and we get a call. It's a pretty good storm, and every single time I've had my butt kicked, it was in Port O'Connor, Texas. So there's just something about the water up there. When a storm comes in, it gets angry up there. It's the Gulf, so usually it's not really big, but it comes fast. So 8-foot waves come in at like 2 and 3 second intervals will just pulverize you.
Wow, that's quick. I mean,
yeah. So we get up there and we get a call for a commercial fishing boat taking on water. They're taking waves over the stern, and their pumps aren't keeping up with flooding. They call us a precaution. So the minute we launch, the other boats that are in port are kind of heckling the captain, going, "Oh, you had to call the Coast Guard." And they're kind of making fun of him. And he's like, no, we're good, never mind. And he gets in closer to shore. You know, the waves kind of settle down a little bit. And we're like, well, we're already in the air. We just want to check on you. No, I'm good. You know, we don't need any help. Well, we're just going to fly over and check on you because we're already here. Hey, dude, why don't you just go do something else? Go look for that sailboat. We're like, what sailboat? Are you kidding me? There's been a sailboat screaming Mayday for the last 12 hours.
What?
And we're like, oh, well, okay. So we mark the position of the boat, of the fishing boat, and we go after looking for a sailboat. And man, we don't go very far. We find this sailboat. It's probably about 28 foot. The anchor pulpit is upside down. It's totally twisted upside down. The man overboard wires on the starboard side are all released. The sails are blown out. The main sail has like maybe 2 feet of strips of cloth going down the mast, out the yard arm, and up the guy wire.
What?
So it's totally blown out. The jib, I don't know what happened, but it came loose, and it is popping like a whip with this massive grommet, probably about 1.5 inches across, a solid brass, and it's taking chunks of fiberglass out of the deck every time it pops.
Wow.
And this guy is just, you can see him just sitting down, rocking back and forth on his hips, just fighting to stay up and down on this sailboat. And we call him up, and he leaves the wheel, and he goes down below to get on the radio to talk to us. And we're like, well, that was kind of weird. Why'd he leave the wheel? So we're talking to him, and his story was, hey, I went out for a day sail. I decided to take a nap. I woke up in the middle of a storm. I had my GPS, my cell phone, all my charts. They went over the side with the first wave. So it's like, okay, yeah. So, his antenna, I can't believe it even works. I mean, just everything on this boat's been destroyed. So he's not transmitting that far, which is why we never knew he was there. So
only the local boats in the area were picking up the traffic saying, right, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday.
Yeah.
Dang, that sucks.
So we get down there, and they're like, Marty, we're going to deploy you to the boat. We got to go get fuel. We're getting close on fuel. We didn't think we'd be doing a second search for a sailboat. So get on the boat, stabilize the boat. We'll be right back. And I get down there, and it's good. 8 to 10 foot seas, big old rollers. And I get probably a wavelength away from him, and he turns the boat away. And then catches the wave away from me. And it catches a wave and drifts away. So I swim backwards, hit the next row of waves. And you know how the deal is. You swim on the top of the wave, left and right, so you can basically run into the boat and grab whatever you can get a hold of.
Yeah.
But once you get past that boat, there is no coming back. So he does this 2 or 3 times. And what he's doing, he's trying to throw me a rope. He's turning the boat. coiling a rope and throwing it to me, but he's throwing it like maybe 5 yards. He can't even extend his yards or his arm. He's so cold.
Yeah.
And so he's not handling the boat great. He's not throwing great. And he's really making my life miserable. So about the third
yeah, yell up
attempt,
to him, "You're not helping. Stop it."
Oh, so about the third time, the helicopter comes and picks me up, and I get in there, and man, everybody on the crew is cussing. Like, really, dude? Really? What? Come on, man. And we're like, hey, look, we only have a little bit of fuel. We can only do this one more time. And so it's like, I got kind of a weird idea. You know, every time y'all call him on the radio, he goes into the cabin. He left that 40-foot chunk of rope hanging over the side of the boat. Call him on the radio, go into a hover, and I'll grab the rope. And so that's what we did. So
Wow.
I deploy, swim over, grab the boat. And it's like, okay, so now you're tied to a boat that's getting bullied around in you know, some good sized waves. And so it's like, okay, up the rope, you're going hand over hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, hold on, you know, and you take the wave. And it took about 5 of those to get up to where you can get over the side of the boat. And so I finally get there. I get to the side of the sailboat, and I just reach up, and I was exhausted, man. So I took my harness, and when the boat came down, I clipped on to a stanchion, and all of a sudden the boat went over a wave and went up. And so I'm dangling off the side of this boat. And then the wave, you know, it rocks a little bit and comes down. So now my legs are under the boat. It's like, oh, great. And so I said, hey, look, brother, I got to break loose from the suction from under the boat. And I'm going to flop over. If you could just grab the back of my harness, it might help me out a little. And he's like, I can't, my legs don't work. I'm like, are you injured? Are you okay? He goes, no, I'm a paraplegic. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And so I managed to pull myself up, flop over onto the deck. And right then you see that nose drop and the helicopter takes off, and you're stuck with this guy. And you're like, what the heck are you doing out in a storm by yourself? And first thing we do is we go over the egress. Hey, if the boat flips over, this is the way we're going to go out. I want you sitting right here so I can grab you. He's hypothermic and he's hungry. He's like, hey man, I haven't eaten in a day. And I know we're not supposed to let him eat, but I thought, you know what? Let him get some energy. And I watched this guy devour 3 king-size Snicker bars in like 5 minutes. It almost made me sick watching him eat. But this guy was starving. And I stick my head down in the cabin. There's a lot of water. Everything's floating around the cabin. And way up in the bow of the boat, you know, where the bed is, there's a black cat with his legs straight up in the air. His head's off to the side. And this cat is seasick. And I'm like, okay, I am in a storm with a paraplegic and a puking black cat. I don't even know how you wind up in these situations.
You can't make this stuff up. You just can't make it up.
Nope. So I do the dart underneath the whipping sail, get a hold of it, tie it down to the mast, secure all the wires, make sure that there's nothing we're going to snag up on. And I'm like, so what's the deal? What happened? He goes, well, I've only got like about a 5 horsepower kicker motor, and it's not strong enough to get through the jetties in a storm. I'm like, well, let's just get to the jetties and a Coast Guard boat can come out and tow us in. We still don't have comms with anybody. So we start motoring towards a jetty with a 5-horse motor. And all of a sudden, hey, look, there's that fishing boat we were looking for. They're like, y'all want to tow? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to tow. So he throws me a rope, and we go out there on the nose. Remember, there's no man overboard lines on the nose of this boat. There's no helicopter. So I've got to get out on the nose of this boat and make off, you know, the towing line. And I'm there for like 2 seconds. And brother, we go through one wave, up a second one, and crash down on a third. And I scurry back to the cockpit. The fishing boat pulls ahead, and the towing hawser snaps.
Oh,
and we're like, great,
goodness.
we get to go do that again. So this time, we tie it to the base of the mast. Instead of going all the way out on the tip and risking falling over, we tie it to the base of the mast. And I'm sitting there tying it off, and I hear this pang, 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 pang. And it's the outrigger from the shrimper hitting the mast right over my head.
Oh my gosh.
And so I look up, I see it again. I don't even get back to the cockpit, and our mast is tangled in their nets. And as they pull ahead, our sailboat turns perpendicular to their boat.
Oh,
and we start scooping water. And the boat is totally laid over on its side. They're dragging us by the mast. And I grab this guy, and we're about to jump overboard, and the net tears, and the boat swings heavy. We grab the helm, we straighten it out, and they pulled us all the way to Port O'Connor.
Holy
so
smokes.
There we are. You know, we're coming into Port O'Connor, and we're passing the Coast Guard station, and I'm like, oh wow, look, they got a helicopter on their lawn. And they pull us all the way into the marina. We tie up. I get to meet the guy's dad, shake his hand. One of the guys from the small boat station picked me up, and my crew's over there drinking coffee at the station. They're like, well, by the time we got back, you were already in the jetty, so we just thought we'd wait for you. You sound like you were doing great.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. That's awesome. I got this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Marty.
But see, that honestly, that's why I love flying with Dave Neal, is I've trusted him to do his job, and he trusted me to do mine.
Yeah.
And I mean, that it's just that simple.
It is that simple. And, that's another great discussion point, is that to trust, the guys in the position that you're in, do your job. If you're flying, you're the pilot, do your job. Trust me that I can do my job in the back, whether it's hoisting, whether it's swimming, whether it's being on a mountain, whatever. Like, that's what we're trained to do. Like, pilots go through flight training school to fly the helicopter badass.
Yeah.
Well, we're trained to do the same thing, only ours is on the other end of the hook.
Right.
Yeah.
And God bless the flight mech that catches all of our mistakes.
Oh yeah. And the flight mech has to deal with both sides.
Oh, that poor guy.
The pilots tell me this. The swimmers tell me that. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. All right. So now I'm going to go to the next one. Ready? The next one is going to be a little more fun because actually, fun's not probably the word I want to use. The next one is going to be a little more. Actually, it's the end of your career is what it is, or coming close to it anyway. But you were deployed to Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans and pulled a killer award out of it, which I'm going to read here in a minute. And we get to hear about everything that happened in Katrina, which is pretty awesome. So it's yet another guy that was down. There were a ton of swimmers that were down there, and everybody has similar stories, but every one of them has been so unique. And I'm looking forward to hearing this one. So here we go. Let's read this, get into it. Citation to accompany the award of the Distinguished Flying Cross to Chief Martin H. Nelson, United States Coast Guard. Chief Petty Officer Nelson is cited for extraordinary achievement while participating in aerial flight from 31 August to 3 September 2005 during Hurricane Katrina rescue operations. Demonstrating exceptional aeronautical skill and superlative physical stamina, Chief Nelson served as rescue swimmer on repeated sorties aboard H-65 helicopters in challenging urban disaster environment. On the night of 31 August, Chief Nelson deployed to an unimaginable scene of chaos where 200 desperate survivors suffering from 3 days of severe exposure to intense heat, lacking food and water, congregated on a roof of a school demanding evacuation. Undaunted by disorder, he quickly took charge and began prioritizing survivors for lift when suddenly he was confronted by openly hostile men. With exceptional composure, Chief Nelson asserted his authority, establishing himself as their only hope for survival and gaining their compliance. Despite nearby gunshots, visible muzzle flashes from below, and volatile crowd, Chief Nelson remained on scene until the survivors were saved from the perilous conditions. Following a series of fatigued rescues, Chief Nelson mustered enough energy to deploy from 150 feet to a 6-foot landing boxed in by buildings, jagged debris, and power lines. Recognizing the dangers, he completed 3 demanding direct deployments, each protecting the survivors by using his own body as a shield from the potential deadly hazards. On 02 September, Chief Nelson deployed to assist another rescue swimmer evacuating survivors from the top of a slippery dome-shaped structure. This terrifying situation was created after an armed mob raided the building and forced a survivor to the roof. With the gang lurking below, Chief Nelson shuttled 60 survivors along the dome to awaiting aircraft, barely maintaining a foothold while fighting against the intense rotor wash. His actions, aeronautical skills, and valor were instrumental in the rescue of 90 storm victims. His courage, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commending, in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Marty, what the? Like, I knew Katrina was crazy, and Dave talks about gunshot, but you got gunshots too. What, bro?
It was a little bit surreal. It started out as the bridesmaid case where, hey, Marty, we know you're going to make chief in a couple of days. And, we got more than enough master chiefs, senior chiefs, and chiefs coming into town. And we got more than enough rescue swimmers. Man, you're still in boxes. You just moved to Mobile. Why don't you just medevac, sit this one out, medevac, and go to Tallahassee? And I'm like, hey, peace out. I've had enough storms. I'm good. And so I wind up wagon training with about 7 Coast Guard families over to Tallahassee. All the husbands are flying. So we get all the families set up in a hotel in Tallahassee. And I'm not there 12 hours. And they're like, dude, we messed up. We need you back like right now. So next day, I'm packing up the car again. And it was so stupid because there's like I-10 on one side is a parking lot, except for one Suburban with a family of 6 going the wrong way with about 8 gas cans strapped to the back of it because we know we're going back into a disaster area. And I get there, set up the family with the generator, get the AC going, kiss the wife, kiss the kids, and they go and they drop me off at the Training Center Mobile. Get my flight brief at 7:30. I'm in the air. Sun goes down shortly. I think we got in the air when it was still pink sky. But brother, we flew an hour and we didn't see any lights. No lights.
Wow.
No towers. You would see the occasional house fire, campfire, but there were no lights passing over the entire state of Mississippi.
Holy smoke.
So it starts to sink in. You go from that excited to, not really knowing what's going on, that excitement to, holy cow, this is really big. And we go into New Orleans area and they direct us to a neighborhood. And we picked up, I think, about 12 people. And they said, hey, look, we're going to go get fuel. Obviously, we're going to work this neighborhood a little bit more. And I was getting my head about me. I was like, you know what? Go ahead and leave me here. I just really wanted to get my head on with this. And there was a big guy. He was Army. He just got back from the desert. And he is full blown in combat mode. You can see it in his eyes. He is the warrior. And he's giving me local information. And all of a sudden, we feel like doors slamming, and there's like 10 feet of water in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is there anybody in this house? And we realize it's not door slamming, it's 2x4s buckling in the house.
Holy cow.
You can feel it when you're on the roof. And we go ahead, we medevac him out, and then We go to the next set of roofs. We get a couple of people, and I took my helmet off. The helicopter went to go drop them off and was coming back, and I took my helmet off, and it was maddening because you're standing on a roof where everybody else is standing on their roof too in a neighborhood, and everybody is screaming at you because, I mean, you've got the retro tape, you've got the chem lights, they can hear your radio squelching.
Yeah.
I can't find my kid. My mom broke her leg. My dad's out of oxygen. Everybody is screaming their needs at you. And mentally, It was just like, holy cow. I put my helmet back on. It was like, nope, I can't listen to this right now. And you get your head around it. And then they picked us up. We went into New Orleans. And this would have been probably day 2 or 3. And I'm still getting my head on. And the pilot, we stop. And the pilot gets out, shakes my hand, says, hey, Marty, guess what? It's 12:05. And I finally got my game together. And I'm like, yeah, man, hey, we got to get back in the air. I figure by 4.8, we can come back here, get another bag of gas so we can get some more rescues, get some more people. We don't want to be caught on the ground in New Orleans. We still have to have enough fuel to get home to Mobile. And he goes, no, Marty, slow down. It's 12:05. And I said, hey, dude, look, I'm normally good at this game, but right now you're going to have to just tell me what you want out of it. And he shook my hand. He put an anchor in my hand. I promoted. I made chief.
Oh,
at
hey.
And I'm like, hey, this is cool, but we got some next level stuff to deal with.
Right.
And so, put the anchor in the pocket, and it's like, okay, pilot, go get an area brief. Co-pilot, go take care of the logs. Flight mech's going to run over the bird. Marty, I get to play the stewardess. Go get local intel and get us food. Grab a couple MREs. Okay, cool. We go over, we talk to the swimmers, and the swimmer's like, hey, man, cool your heels. They're shutting us down. So what do you mean they're shutting us down? He said, well, they said it's day 3 and the risk assessment says that, if we're going to have an accident, it's going to be, between the 3rd day and the 4th day. And they're only going to have us hauling water to people. And I'm like, brother, my payload is like 1,000 pounds. Okay. I can bring people to water faster than I can bring water to people. It'll take me a half hour to load and unload 1,000 pounds of bottled water.
Yeah.
This just doesn't, the risk assessment there of having people come under the rotors for cargo makes no sense. And we're sitting there talking about it. Yeah. And all of a sudden,
no kidding. Common sense.
I don't know who it was. There's a young kid. He's sitting there eating like a thing of yogurt. And he's like, yeah, especially since all those kids are on a roof. And we all looked at him like, wait, what? Yeah, there's like 60 kids on this roof. I marked the position. You still have the position? Yeah. And they got you hauling water. Yeah. Okay, look it. We go back and I look at the pilots and I'm like, hey, you want to take this anchor out for a test spin? Let's get rid of all this water.
Come on,
this
Marty.
guy's got a position. There's 60 kids. And they're like, 60 kids, that's all we had to hear. So we go flying into this area. They put all the old guys in one helicopter. I'm in the old guy helicopter, thinking that we were going to somehow be the calmer, more tame of the bunch. Way wrong answer. We were like the first ones on deck. And we get out on what I think was an old folks home. And it had like the whole neighborhood on top of the roof. There's probably a couple hundred people up there. We hit the ground, grab some people, shove them in. My helicopter takes off. Second helicopter lands over. It's a U-shaped roof, and we're at the tip of one U, and they're at the tip of the other. And then all the people are back on that common area where it's all connected. So this young swimmer, I can't remember who it was. I think his name was Wolf. He comes running over. Hey, what are we doing? I said, we're going to run 2 LZs, throw 4 chem lights in each corner, and keep 2 red chem lights stuffed in your wetsuit sleeve. What for? Dude, I love DOD. If they see red chem lights over your head, they think you're an LSO. They're going to land. So just keep 2 red chem lights. We walk towards the crowd. We throw down a whole bunch of chem lights, and we tell them, hey, if you cross this line, we're leaving and not coming back. Because the blades come down to 5'2". Anybody over 5'2" loses the top of their head. So if you cross the line, we're going to another roof. And so everybody's cool with not crossing the line. Tell the kid, set up the same LZ that I've got here. I land, he lands, we stuff the cabin, I take off, they take off. We go do triage, we grab some more people, helicopter lands, we stuff the cabins, and that was our rotation. And so we get about maybe 3 rotations in, and we get a bunch of guys standing over in the corner crossing their arms. They're not really happy with the whole women and children first thing. So I've already heard some stories, Rob Williams and John Williams both had run-ins with guys, with guns. Yep. And I walked over and decided to not be the target. And I said, yo, whose roof is this? And this kid steps out and says, yo, this is my roof. I said, okay, who's out next? Give me one guy. He goes, I want this guy out next. Okay. And I walk him over to the edge of the roof, say, hey, dude, I promise you, you're going to be on the next helicopter, but you give me an ounce of crap and I'm throwing you off this roof. Okay. Oh, no, man, it's cool. It's cool. All right. Good deal. So helicopter lands. We make a big show of him getting onto the helicopter. Everybody in the little group over there, they're happy. You walk into a crowd and you pick up the youngest child and you hold them over your head and you scream, whose kid is this? And there's going to be a woman running out screaming, that's my baby. Great. How many babies do you have, ma'am? And remember, we're back to that 1,000-pound capacity. Right. So the big guy we put in there, he's a big guy. He's going to be like, you start thinking in terms of 200. Okay, so he's probably 2.25 plus the 2 kids. That brings us up to 2 units. That's 400 pounds. The kids and him are 400 pounds. Mom's under 200 pounds. Grab 2 stragglers, knock on the window, and you tell the pilots, hey, these guys got to go to I-10 East. Okay. And they take off. They don't question it. They just take them to I-10 East aid station. Next helicopter lands. You pull somebody from a gang. You pull somebody, youngest children with the most children and biggest family. Hey, these guys got to go to I-10 West. Okay. Okay. And so what you're doing is you're systematically breaking up that gang and sending them to different FEMA stations. Because what we don't want to do, we do not want to dump a gang off in the middle of a FEMA station.
Wow. Well played, sir.
So we wound up running 9 helicopters for 5 hours and probably medevacing over 250 people. There were 60 people in the building that were patients, or they just weren't capable of getting up the vertical ladder. One of the local parish priests were in there taking care of them. And they would bring me just 1 or 2 pallets of water or cases of water that we could drop down to them to take care of them. But we were not going to get them out of the building in dark without technical rescue. So we go all night. And just before we get pink sky morning, Big Dave Gray comes in. And God bless him, the technical thinker that I'm not. Hey, we need heavy haulers. We need bigger helicopters. And so he calls in DOD aircraft, and they come in. I don't think that building lasted beyond noon, because he worked from sun up till about 10 or 11 o'clock, loading everybody up. He was just about ready to go. And all of a sudden the gunfire erupted again. We'd seen random gunfire all night, but Dave Gray wound up in the middle of a firefight. And I think by noon or 1 o'clock, that building was on fire. I don't even think it survived. The building did not survive the night.
Yeah, he talks about that in his episode with us, and my goodness,
it was just crazy. So that's day 1 of Katrina.
Wow.
We go in, we get a couple of other ones. We're like, okay, we can do like maybe a couple more rescues, and then we got to head back to Mobile. Then we do that high wire rescue where there's just these massive trees. So we got to go out the door, pretty high, and we're skirting the power lines. Are they dead? Are they alive? I don't know. But we got to get around that. We got to get around the shards from the building. And we pick up, as I remembered, it was 2 sisters, a child, and one of the sisters' husband. and the husband elected to stay behind. And so he's giving this kid hugs. The kid does not want to leave dad. And it's just a little bitty, probably about 4 or 5-year-old kid. And we get the women up into the helicopter, and then they send down the basket. There is no room left in the helicopter. And so I get in the basket with this little kid, and when they get us up, my butt is like over floor, but my feet are not. And so this kid is literally out the door. So I got him in my lap, and we reach over. I shake mama's hand, and that seems to calm him down. Like, see, we're friends. Me and your mom are friends. It's all good. And so I'm holding on to him. And the only piece I remember that entire week was looking at the stars with this kid. We're flying over New Orleans, and I didn't want him to look down. So we were just looking at stars.
Wow.
I mean, it could have been my kid, just sitting there giving him a hug and looking at the stars together. So crazy.
Marty, that's crazy.
We dropped off those survivors at an aid station, headed back for Mobile. We got somewhere over Mississippi, and they called for a woman in labor. And it was horrible because we couldn't find her. We couldn't get a signal, and we looked as long as we could. But somewhere in Mississippi, a woman gave birth with no help.
Dang.
So we get back. You get that day off to rejuvenate, and you're like, well, it's a great weight loss plan. I lost 9 pounds last night, because you're just so dehydrated. You get some good food. You get some downtime with the family. You're trying to stay in touch with what's going on with the shop, talking to the guys. And they're like, the next one was, hey, Marty, well, now that you're a chief, you and Hoffmaster can go back and relieve D'Amata. And so we get back there, and I'm just like, holy cow, I've only done 1 day there. The New Orleans crew has been doing this since day one.
Right.
They've been in this for probably a week already. Their houses are gone.
Yeah.
Their families are scattered. And I only did it for, that 1 day. And they've been in this for how long? And I just, I don't even know how to talk to them when I get there. The one thing I did is, whenever we landed for fuel, I had that little green notebook. Hey, what do you want me to bring? When I come back, what do you want me to bring? And the guys are like, you know what? Everybody asks this, nobody comes. And the maintenance officer was the funniest guy. He's like, you know what? I'd love a Crown and Coke, and I got more Coke and ice than I know what to do with. But everybody just gave me their little wants and needs, and we went back to supply, and we loaded, oh my gosh, probably 6 or 8 B4 bags full of gear. All of my personal camping gear, all the kids' sleeping bags, all that. It's like, hey guys, there's some people that need this more than we do. I'll get you new stuff. You guys are growing. Let it go. There's other people that lost a whole lot more. So we shove all these bags in a Falcon. There's a picture of it somewhere of the entire back of the Falcon is loaded with these big green B4 bags full of stuff.
Yeah.
And we're sitting on them like beanbag chairs. So Hoff and I go in there, and the minute we land, we throw all the B4 bags out there. We call a muster. Hey, we're so-and-so. One of the wives, I can't say who, was a very good friend of the person that ran the exchange, and they bought the largest Crown bottle I've ever seen in my life. It was massive. So
awesome.
They're like, okay, so set the mood. We called the maintenance officer up, said, hey, I think you requested this. You said nobody brings you anything. Well, here you go. And so we started giving out flight suits, sleeping bags, food, just whatever the particular thing that they said they wanted. And it was like Christmas. Everybody is so happy to get out of their diesel soaked clothes and have a dry place to sleep. And I said, hey guys, you know what? You know what I want? And everyone just kind of looked at me. I said, I kind of need the hangar emptied because we really got to start cleaning this place up. And this one guy goes, hey, I got a forklift license, and I know where there's some tables, but they're dirty. Hey, it's okay. Bring them over to the wash rack. The planes took off, and by the time the planes got back at noon, that hangar was spotless.
Wow.
Hoffmaster and I set up decon centers. We set up a place to inspect equipment. We set up a place, an eating area, and they sent 3 or 4 psychologists to keep an eye on us. And so we told the psychologist, hey, you got to sit on that side of the bench. And so when the guys come and sit, they're not facing everyone else, so they won't see you talking to them. But they'll come over and they'll break bread. They'll talk a little bit, and then the guys go back to work. We took all the chairs and put it in this big semicircle, and it faced the flight line. So the guys would slide off the aircraft, and they'd look a little beat or tired, and they'd see everybody looking at them, and they'd get their chin high, and everybody would clap. I mean, it built a really great environment. So we're going through this, we're making it work, and late in the evening, the psychologists come to me and they're like, hey, we got a problem. What's that? We don't have a problem. I don't get it.
Awesome.
They're like, man, these guys aren't showing any signs of fatigue whatsoever. I said, look, dude, here's the
boys.
Thing. These guys thrive where there's no rules. They're wired that way. I'm going to need you for reentry. Right now, let them deal with their stuff. Let them talk to each other. When they have to leave here and go back to their station, that's when I'm going to need your help. But right now, you're not going to see any problems. And they're like, so, but, so that was day 2. Let's see, day 3, they called it low hanging fruit. They're like, hey, look, we're just going to fly around the outer areas and look for stragglers and, get area intel and see what's going on. So we're flying through, we actually decided to fly through downtown, and there was a swimmer on top of the Salvation Army building. And I was like, well, that's odd. I'm like, hey guys, if that swimmer's still standing there, he's been there for an hour already. If he's still standing there when we go back for fuel, I want you to drop me off, and I'm going to go check on him, make sure he's okay. 3 hours in a wetsuit, in 80, 90 degree heat, that's a lot. So they drop me off and they bail. And it turns out it was a methadone clinic. And there was a Walgreens and a CVS across the street. And once all the patients figured out that they could get into Walgreens and CVS and take whatever they wanted, they took over the clinic.
Oh man.
So those big blue pills that look like cereal boxes, from the robotic dispensers. Yeah, you can see guys walking around with those.
Oh my gosh.
So I get there and I do the same thing. What's the first EMT thing? How many rescuers? How many patients? So it's like, okay, are there any more people down below? And everyone's like, nobody we care about.
Wow.
They've got the door barricaded so nobody can come up and get on the roof. And we had all the doctors and nurses and medical staff up there. And so we had to walk them out to the end of this building where the helicopter was landing, just one at a time. It's a big old corrugated dome. And we'd walk them to the end, get them in the helicopter, and we wound up medevacing all of those guys out of there. They'd been stuck on the roof because their building was overtaken.
Wow.
So,
everybody that I talked to says Katrina was it was the Wild West, and it was, for all of you guys that were down there. Again, I wasn't down there for it. I wish I had been. Other people tell me they're glad I wasn't, but just kidding.
Yeah.
And,
it was nuts.
Yeah.
But I mean, the biggest thing is there's a lot of crews. I don't think the 8th District crews got nearly the recognition they should have gotten. The fact is, I was at a headquarter unit, and we were not accountable to district. We sent our awards straight to headquarters.
Wow.
But New Orleans, Houston, Corpus crews, I don't believe that they were recognized the way they should have been recognized. And I know we went back and we tried to fix some of that. I'm not privy to what they did or what they got accomplished, but the New Orleans crew is just freaking legendary.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
that's all there is to it.
they were answering the call while the storm was still happening.
Yeah.
You know, it was crazy. So,
Yeah.
and you
A
know,
lot of people lose houses. A lot of
Yeah.
people do rescue. Not a lot of people do rescue after they lost their houses.
right. And those guys were, every one of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I remember the call coming in from Master Chief Dyer at the time, just saying, we need every available asset, bring every unit in the Coast Guard down to skeleton crew and get everyone there.
Mhm.
You know, I was like, holy cow, we got to start sending some guys. Let's go.
But they were, it was awesome to watch them. I mean, it was awesome to watch them interact. Like I said, they got off the helicopter. They had attention. It's like, look, and it wasn't like, look at me attention. It's, oh crap, people are looking at me. I can't show weakness. And we fed off it. We just fed off it. then it was like, okay, how long can we keep it going? Oh, we can do this all day. They keep sending us fresh blood. You know, we probably had 25% of the rescue swimmer rate in Mobile.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, which is awesome. Just amazing.
But that was Katrina.
Marty, these stories are freaking unreal. You had one heck of a career, man. It's like a holy smoke.
Just another swimmer, dude.
Just another swimmer. Yep. Dude, I love it. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Like you have shared some incredible stories. We've been going for a while now. This, like I said, I can't get enough of this stuff. I love every bit of it. But if you don't mind, like with all of your experience, what would you pass on? What would you share with everybody else out there that's still doing the job?
Man, you're going to be in it a long time. So spend time with the guys. You know, I was probably the guy that punched out and went home, you know, at 5 o'clock, a little too much. I should have spent more time with the guys. I was a swimmer for 20 years. I've been retired for 11, and I still talk to a lot of people. It doesn't end with retirement.
No.
I mean, if you want it to, I guess it can, but I will never forget getting a phone call probably a couple years into retirement at about 12:30, 1 in the morning. And it's when Dale Taylor and Fernando George's aircraft went down.
Yep.
And I was retired, and somebody in town knew those were my boys, and they gave me a call to let me know. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this just does not get any easier with retirement. Retirement has nothing to do with the rescue swimmer program whatsoever.
Nope.
So what do? I'm thinking about, okay, what can I do? Nothing really. You know what? I can call one person. I'm going to call the guy that relieved me, Pat Estrada.
PE. Love my boy PE.
I call him at 1:30 in the morning to say, hey, listen, you may want to brace the boys for some bad news. I don't know if it's been released yet, but Pat Estrada is still up packing to go to Mobile to do the CISM debris.
Wow.
And it's like, that's just how small our community is. I know there's guys out there that didn't enjoy working with me, and that's okay. I still love you, man. I learned something from everybody I worked for. There's a lot of guys that work for me. They taught me a lot. And the older you get, the more you realize how small this world is.
Yeah, so, true statement.
But yeah, so keep that community going. You get out in the field, you get one shot. Once you leave the aircraft, you're not in the aircraft anymore, Bubba. So take everything it has to offer, fly a 360 around the case and look at it from every angle. If you're going to get bit, it's because you didn't take advantage of all the information. So
Marty, this has been awesome.
That's it.
This has been awesome. So I'll tell you what, before I let you go, sneak peek to everybody out there. You and I are actually going to get together one more time to talk about one more case that is not disclosed right here, right now. But we're going to leave that as a little like teaser for the next one. Because we're going to try, we've been trying to get, and we should be getting your entire crew that was on that case. And we're going to hear it all from you guys, which is going to be pretty badass. I'm not even going to like dive into it at all.
That's going to be the mind blower.
Come on. Like, I'm excited. I don't even know this story. I'm excited for it too. So, but until that day comes, which is coming pretty quick, and I'm excited about it. Marty, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing this incredible career, all these awesome stories. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've been on the edge of my seat the entire time. I love it. So thank you.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. This is a good deal. Like I said, there's a couple hundred guys out there that have had better careers than I do. We need to hear from all of them.
I'm not. This platform is open for everybody. Come on. You know, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna throw my boy Kurt Revels under the bus right now. I love Kurt. He has had some amazing cases, and he's like, nah, they're not that great. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? You've been left on scene. You've done this. You've done that. There are some amazing cases, and then there are some amazing cases that you just don't hear about. Tell them, come on.
you know what, dude? It's not about us. It's about teaching everyone else. It's about helping everyone else. And if you think hearing about it doesn't help, well, you're just wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brewmaster Revels needs to get on.
Let's go. Let's go, Revels. Oh man, Marty, dude, I love you, man. Thank you again for coming on. And you know, you and I are going to be in touch. I love the fact that we've been reacquainted and reconnected. This has been awesome. So
thanks a lot, Tony. This is a good deal you're doing. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. So until I talk to you later for our next episode, I'm excited. Awesome. So I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, brother. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here. Go. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Real ResQ Podcast. Please take a minute to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. I'm pulling chocks and taking off. But before I go, if anyone out there has a rescue story they would be willing to share, I would be humbled and honored to have you on as a guest. Or if you have any questions about rescue or anything else we talk about here, send an email to jason@therealresq.com. That's Jason at TheRealResQ.com. You can also check us out on our web pages, therealresq.com, our Facebook page, and our Instagram page @TheRealResQ. Again, a special thank you to all of you staying on the watch today. Always remember, when that SAR alarm goes off, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. Until next time, fly safe and swim hard.